Call the joint city-county meeting to order, and we'll take, on the city side, we'll take the roll call, please.
Councilors Benega?
Here.
Brown?
Here.
Costello? Jameson?
Here.
Knutson? Litz?
Here.
Staggers?
Present.
Anderson Jr.?
Quorum present for the city side.
I'd like to call the Minnehaha County Commission to order.
You guys have in yours? Okay, let's do, let's please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion on the city side to approve the regular agenda?
I so move
Knutson moves second.
Second, let's.
Litz seconds. Further comments? All in favor of that motion? Vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilors Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson Jr.?
The regular agenda has been approved. Okay, let's move to item number 1. Let's go ahead.
A second reading and ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of said city by rezoning property at 1 mile northeast of Sioux Falls from the A1 Agricultural District to the RR Rural Residential District.
Pat Herman for County Planning. This is a request from Steve Bechtold to rezone property. It is located in the joint jurisdictional area for Sioux Falls and Minnehaha County. It sits in a subdivision that has approximately 32 houses, and this area was developed in the early 60s and later subdivided into more lots in the 1970s. The request is to go from A1 agricultural to RR rural residential. Most of the subdivision is zoned A1 agricultural, except for 2 lots that are shown in yellow on the screen, and that is zoned rural residential. And they do abut the petitioner's property. The comprehensive plan for Minnehaha County depicts this area as a transition area, which means it's an area that's changing from agricultural to more intensive development, and in this case to residential. And so the property itself is no longer really viable as an agricultural use. This property is located within a half mile of the City of Sioux Falls, so we anticipated at some point it will be annexed into the city. Sioux Falls, the 2015 growth plan, does show this as an existing rural residential. The property itself is 12.64 acres. There's 1 house on the property that abuts Slip Up Creek Road. For rural residential, there is a minimum lot size of 1 acre, and that's to be able to support the septic systems that will be needed on these lots. We anticipate that there could be 11 houses on this 12-acre parcel. However, with the lay of the land and having to develop roads, will probably be a little bit less when it's fully developed. We have informed the petitioner that they will have to do a development plan that will come before you in the future, and that will have to be done before this lot can be built on. This was before the Planning Commissions on April 20th, and they voted unanimously to recommend approval of this rezoning. Be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Yes. Pat, this property is actually in a subdivision right now, is that correct?
That's correct.
So I guess my question is, why do they have to have a development plan being presented when it's already in a subdivision?
Because the lots themselves have not been subdivided, so we need to know how they will fit in with the development that's already there, how the road system will run.
Okay.
Ms. Herman, is there any controversy at all about this issue? I have not heard from anyone who's opposed to it.
No, not that I know of.
Thank you.
Litz.
Where are most of these properties out here currently on septic?
Yes, they are all on septic
Okay,
system.
is the nearest sewer, would that be the Renner sewer, is that?
Right, the Renner line is the closest at this point.
Or is there any anticipation as to when that may happen, or is there another sewer line planned from the south there?
I don't think anything is planned until this area would be annexed into the city.
Very good, thank you.
Further questions? Others that wish to address the joint session on item number 1? I see no one coming forward, so is there...
Move for approval, Benninga.
Benninga moves, is there a second?
Second,
Litz seconds. Further comments on the city side? Not, all in favor? Yes, those opposed, no?
Councilors Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
City is approved.
Same motion for the county?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes unanimously.
All right, let's move to item number 2.
Presentation of the Siouxland Heritage Museum Special Enterprise Fund Annual Report.
Good afternoon, Bill Hoskins, Director of Siouxland Heritage Museum. This is an annual report that I make each year. The Siouxland Heritage Museum Special Enterprise Fund was established originally in October 1995 through a joint resolution between the City of Sioux Falls City Council and the Minnehaha County Commission. That resolution was updated in December of 2000. The Museum Special Enterprise Fund receives revenues and accounts for expenses associated with the rental of space in the museum system, sponsorships, and the provision of programs, events, and services for which a fee is charged. The Museum Enterprise Fund does, we categorize it into we use it for educational programming, the provision of exhibits, rentals, service requests, and other. The total expenses in 2008 accounted for in the Enterprise Fund were $72,318. The total fund balance at the end of the year was $57,133. That money's carried forward. We do quite a bit of our ongoing programming. If you look at our budget, if you look at the non-salary part of our operational expenses, the Enterprise Fund is actually accounting for about 43% of those total expenses, the money we use to provide programs and exhibits and so on. And over the history of the fund, it has accounted for $912,000 worth of expenses. We've had receipts of just under $969,000. As I said, this is an annual report. Most of you have had it before and heard it before. If you have questions, I would be very happy to answer the questions. Otherwise, I don't believe there's any action necessary in regard to the report.
Yeah, that's true. Questions of Bill on item number 2? Not, we accept the report and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Item number 3.
We seem to have just a minor technical problem here. Okay.
Item 3 is a progress report, briefing and discussion on Housing First project.
Just give a few minutes for the PowerPoint to come up. My name is Ken McFarland, and I'm the Commission Administrative Officer for Minnehaha County. And that we bring this item to you because, though it may seem redundant from what you heard at the informational, I would like to remind both the County Commission and the City Council that this will really be the first opportunity that you will have as a group to consider the information that this body did in fact request be presented and prepared for you. And this is your first opportunity for you to have a discussion on that particular material. You will recall back on November 17, 2008, at the last meeting of this group, On the Housing First project, you had asked for some specific information. You asked for 4 pieces of information so that the City Council and the County Commission can consider the merits of this project in order to move it forward. Number 1 was to identify a specific site for the property. And you will recall, go ahead and advance. You will recall that site has been identified at the corner of 3rd and Minnesota Avenue. That particular site had a number of advantages to it. Number 1, it's already county-owned. And as part of this deal, I think I'm safe to say that the county is willing to move ahead and donate that site for this particular project. The other thing that it had going for it was neighborhood revitalization. It had community connectivity because it was close to both the city and county social service programs, the law enforcement center, community health, economic assistance programs, and it was also convenient to basic services within the city. And again, this is the site on the corner of 3rd and Minnesota, and it's envisioned that it would hold 32 units. We're going to skip ahead to really the main point of what you wanted to know. The other piece of information that you wanted to know is conceptual site and preliminary design plans. This is envisioned, like I said, as a 32-unit facility. It has a number of units, 2 basic unit plans. One is a studio unit of 250 square feet, and the other one is an apartment unit of 340 square feet, and is specifically designed to be a step-in and step-up program as people complete entry into the program. Again, we'll just quickly buzz through this part of it because you've seen this before, but it's a 2-floor facility designed with the combination of the apartment and studio-style apartments. The most important piece of information that you had wanted to see is the detailed construction cost estimate. This 32-unit facility is geared to cost $4,796,406. We estimate the yearly debt service on this project at $377,291, and has been discussed and proposed is that the cost share between the city and the county would be on a 50-50 basis. That means $188,645 per organization. The city and the county have yet to determine how they were going to finance their share of the debt service, but it is the county's intention to probably issue certificates of participation on this and build their 50% cost share into their upcoming budgets. The yearly operational costs for the project are estimated to be $409,155. This was developed by our Human Services Department and includes full-time staff to operate the facility on a 24/7 basis, the costs associated with both the office, maintenance, utilities, all of those, contracts, administrative, vehicle, so $409,155. One of the important things on this to remember is that we are looking at for your consideration, a 70-30 cost split between the city and the county on this project, with the county taking the bulk of it. This would mean the county would have $286,408, and the city would have $122,747. The one thing that I want to reiterate and stress to you as we bring this information forward, you will recall that in the blueprint to end homelessness, that group recognized that if we were seriously going to tackle this problem in this community, that it took a wide range of partners to accomplish this, both at the government level, to include our nonprofit partners in the community, our private participants such as the banks, a whole host of people to bring this project to fruition. With that said, we advanced to the Mayor's Homeless Advisory Board, which recognized the need to continue that partnership. And we have representatives from from every level of government in Sioux Falls. That means the city council, the county commission, the school board. We have advocates and representatives from the school district. We have the faith-based community, private partners, a lot of different folks. And all of the information that we bring to you was with that partnership in mind. That's how the costs have been determined. That's how the cost splits have been determined in order to bring this to you. One of the things I found very, very timely is an article that we received today from Denver. If you really want to highlight the success of this program, and one of the things we want to stress, it's not a new idea that you have under consideration. In Denver, they're already 4 years and $10 million into their Housing First project. They have 1,500 units built. And the one overriding thing that they found in that was, we need more. We need to continue because the program works. They were able to reduce their cost for the homeless from $40,000 per person down to $17,000 per person, and that under this particular program. We're not asking for a decision for you today. We know that there's one other piece of information that the City Council needs to have before it can go forward on this project in consideration, and that is, how does this fit within the city budget? With that end, at the mayor's direction, county staff met with city staff last week to give them, here are the numbers that we're coming up with. I know we're going to need to take a look at some of the operational numbers. The city wants some more detail and answers on those, and we'll be happy to provide it. But the whole goal is to get you that information on how it will fit within the city budget for all of you folks to be able to consider this next month at your joint meeting. We'd like to bring to you a broad memorandum of understanding that outlines the parameters of the project, what the cost shares are, and then we can proceed with a more detailed memorandum of, a joint powers agreement once we know all the details to move the project forward. This is exactly the same process that was used for the Human Services Building when we got into that. We had a broad memorandum of understanding, and then we followed it up with a joint cooperative agreement. With that, I know there are a number of people here, representatives of the HAB, who would like to address the commission and the council. And with that, unless you have any questions of me, I'll turn it over to them.
Let's see, is there any questions, Ken? Go ahead.
Yeah, Ken, you mentioned the Human Services Building.
Yes.
I think I had my percentages right. The city paid 70% of the building and the county paid 30%?
I'll have to go back on that, but that sounds pretty close,
Yeah.
Counselor.
That's a county building, so we paid
Yes.
for most of this county building. And I guess my question is, why is it 50-50 on this one? Why isn't it maybe 70-30, 70% for the county, 30% for the city?
That is exactly a discussion that you folks can have, but we have folks here that may be able to answer that better for you, Counselor.
Other questions? Ken?
At this time, what's your operating cost right now for the number of people you have in the program?
Hugh Grogan and the folks with the program are here, and they can answer that for you. And that right now it's a pilot program based on 20 folks that are part of that program. And so perhaps you or Carrie can give you those specific numbers. These costs are that we're showing you now are based on what a 32 unit and 32 participants in the program.
Right. And this program this pilot program has been going on for how many years now?
About a year and a half. One of the key things that you might remember from the informational presentation last time was how we were seeing a reduction when they keyed on our most chronic homeless. We had costs ranging of around $31,000 per participant. You know, that we were seeing in detox, jail, hospital admits, cost of law enforcement with these individuals. And if you remember the information that we presented here under this particular program, and I will refer you to page 13 of the PowerPoint presentation, with debt service, anticipated debt service on this project, we could reduce that to $22,456 per resident. That's consistent with what we've seen in programs throughout the country, that this Housing First project works. It does reduce taxpayer money and expenditures for this part of our population.
And I guess my other question is, I know what the county's portion of is right now as far as operating costs and expenses for those 20 people. I have asked our staff to come up what the city's costs are too. We haven't gotten a response on that yet, but speaking with the mayor, we should have that soon.
And that is one of the missing pieces of information that I know you as a city council want to have prior to your consideration of a memorandum of understanding. That's precisely the reason at the mayor's request that we met with city staff last week to start providing the framework for those numbers so that you can have that for yourselves as well.
And I don't know if there was any miscommunication on that, but I guess what I was looking for was the expenses on those 20 people so that we can see if the city is seeing the same thing that the county is, a reduction on services as these people graduate through this program.
Other questions?
Yeah, Kenny mentioned these individuals graduating from this program. Has anybody graduated?
I don't know if I use the term of graduating, but they do move through the program. And that one of the things I think you need to remember on this, Counselor, you spend $31,000 already on this per person on this target population, and at the end of the day, they're still homeless, and they still have their same problems that they had before. It's been a revolving door. Under this particular scenario, what you do is you address their core issue first, which is a lack of housing. And once you get them in a stable environment, then you can do the case management services that have been part of the pilot program in order to reduce the number of admissions into the hospitals, reduce the number of admissions into the jails, the detoxes, and the need for law enforcement intervention. And that's the whole point behind the problem. And at the end of the day, they have a roof on their head.
I guess the concern some people have is that this is warehousing. So once again, has anybody left the pilot program?
We have both Carrie and Hugh, who are the program administrators, that can perhaps answer that for you.
Okay.
Other questions?
I guess to respond to you on that, Councilor Staggers, I think there has been, but the whole thing is, and this was something that I had stated when I was involved in the site committee, was that we wanted to see this be more of a hand up than a handout. And I'm very, as the information I've gotten from the county, that is the direction that they're headed. A lot of these people may never get out of this program, but if we have one or two even, move out of this program, I think it's a success because you're reducing the cost.
The one thing I'd like to remind both the council and the commission, at least on this particular project and the concept behind the project, is the fact that with Housing First, and I just lost my train of thought. It just went right out my head.
Carol.
Well, Councilor Anderson very successfully answered my question. This program is not necessarily meant for participants to leave. I mean, we're providing them homes, and some of them will, some of them have, some have been reconnected with their families, but the intent is to perhaps allow them to graduate to a better, to an apartment situation. But these are folks that oftentimes are in the last stages of their lives. They most likely will never be out in the work world. Some of them may. They are not being warehoused. They are being carefully case managed, from their health issues to mental health issues to career counseling, if and when that can happen. Each person is an individual, and each person is treated as a person, an individual person with worth that deserves better than living in the streets.
And now my thought came back into my head. I mean, the one thing that you have to remember, too, is that this is the core population that cost the city and the county the most dollars. These are the most expensive homeless people that we have. This this group of chronic homeless. And it was specifically recognized in the business plan that was submitted by the HAB that this was the first priority, is to deal with this target population and address this issue before you start moving into the other issues of the homeless, with homeless families, children, etc. That this was the core that you needed to start the program with.
Further questions? Yeah.
Not sure if I've got this on or not. The one thing I do want to refer you to, I was in Denver last weekend and picked up the Saturday Denver Post, and the very cover story, Road Home Moving Swiftly. All of the consuls and commissioners have a copy of it. And what's very interesting about it, as I read it, it really mirrors exactly what's going on here. But this is not just a Denver Sioux Falls issue. On the second page, you'll see that Dennis Culhane, a sociology policy professor at the University of Pennsylvania, has studied programs across the nation, which include Denver, and they're saying that detox admissions for homeless substance abusers fall 84% when they're targeted for housing and services. And they know that the programs are in fact cost beneficial and that it's possible to do it. It makes good economic sense. I really refer you to this article because it really packaged everything. It looked like it could have come out of Sioux Falls, only it's just a little bit larger. And so I please refer you to this because it does make good sense. And it's talking about if we can save taxpayers money, we're not just looking at which pocket it came out of, whether it's the Medicaid pocket, it's whose it is. We have to look at the society as a whole rather than trying to be in little boxes. So I think this is very helpful, and for those of you, I think Ken's maybe got a few extras if they'd like to see it.
One of the things that we've seen in programs like this throughout the country is the partnerships, and that make these things work, and that's I think is the key to a successful housing first project, is the partnerships that need to be built. That's why the HAB has been working for a long time now to help establish those partnerships and to bring people to the table, and city and the county are prime players in that partnership and are key to bringing other partners to the table. So with that, I'm going to introduce...
D had a question, I think, Ken.
Mr. McFarland, thanks so much for being here today and for just giving us an update. I continue to be a strong supporter of the concept, and just look forward to the day that we can actually have a home opened up and renting. But just in an ideal world, it would be great if the county and the city were exactly on the same budget cycle, because then I think that would just be so much easier for us on these joint projects, and we do enjoy having our partnerships with the county. A couple thoughts that I've just heard, since our last meeting is a few people who are more knowledgeable than I am about building costs think that the number that is just that's been suggested here for building cost per square foot is quite high. And that's not an area I know very well, so I'll leave that to the experts. And also, I do not recall exactly, I have not visited with the Director of Finance about this for a long time, and I need to do that. But I speaking for myself, I would be kind of surprised if next month wouldn't be way too soon for us to be ready for a memorandum of understanding. I might be wrong on that, but I would think as excited as I am about this project, which is extremely so, my enthusiasm is as high as it ever was, is that even I realize that it's very important that we be fiscally responsible and that we be able to meet our obligation with our great partners, the county. And since the city budget is just being developed, I mean, I don't have a clue yet where we're going to be for operating, money. So again, such a large chunk of our operating budget is staff and benefits that I always wish we had way more money for these great projects. And then I guess the other thing that I'd like to just say is that, again, I assume at some point as we continue our discussions on this important project that there'll be serious discussions also as far as at what level are expenses capped and what do we do about those and so forth. And because to me it's way too open-ended in the end. And then I actually still have some concerns about as far as what in a perfect world, what the right percentages as far as owning a building. You know, is it best that we own it together, and as long as we're still in love, that works, but at the point that we have marital difficulties, then it's trickier. So those are my thoughts for today.
And I didn't know if you wanted an answer to those or
No,
not.
I just wanted to share those thoughts.
Okay, who else you have?
Stacy Teason,
Okay.
who is the homeless coordinator for the Homeless Advisory Board.
Good afternoon, City Councilors, County Commissioners, and Mayor Munson. The Homeless Advisory Board's mission statement begins with, to identify causes of homelessness and to find solutions that fit the Sioux Falls community. The Housing First project before you today is an example of just such a solution brought to you after months of research, examination of other programs, and determining that the best way to move forward is by creating permanent, supportive housing. The 10-year plan to end homelessness was the vision of Mayor Munson. He selected the members of the task force, which consisted of business leaders, developers, and faith-based community members. The primary emphasis of the plan was to focus on the most expensive and needy of our homeless population, those most often shunned by society and not served by other entities. Those are our chronic homeless. The plan also recommended the creation of the Homeless Advisory Board, which Mayor Munson then appointed in the fall of 2005. Shortly thereafter, there was discussion to create a cooperative agreement for the Homeless Advisory Board between the city and county to join together as partners in ending homelessness. Mayor Munson also had the foresight to bring Philip Mangano to Sioux Falls, who heartily endorsed our 10-year plan. Mangano was the executive director of the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness, supporting 10-year plans and endorsing Housing First. Ending homelessness with 10-year plans was the innovative linchpin of the Bush administration. The Homeless Advisory Board has worked steadily over the last few years to implement the 10-year plan and to further community involvement in ending homelessness. It will take all of us to be partners in a vision that began with our mayor to end homelessness in Sioux Falls. I would like to thank the city councilors for giving us the opportunity to present this information today. I would like to thank the county for stepping forward to address an immediate need. I would like to thank the members of the HAB for their continued efforts to find solutions to the challenge to end homelessness. And I would like to thank the mayor for his continued leadership. Thank you.
Questions, Stacy? Go ahead, Greg.
Stacy, could you read that first line again on your goals or your mission statement? Just the first line.
This is just a chunk of it, but to identify causes of homelessness and to find solutions that fit the Sioux Falls community.
So identifying causes of homelessness. What have you identified that causes homelessness, and how have you addressed that?
There's a variety of reasons why people end up homeless. The primary reasons are going to be two. One, a lack of affordable housing, and two, a lack of a living wage. So those are two huge things that can't be addressed by the Homeless Advisory Board itself as the sole entity working towards ending homelessness. That takes a community response. Housing is something that we have plenty of in Sioux Falls, but unfortunately we don't have enough in the $300 to $400, even $500 range for families in need, for people in need. And we do have a tendency for some of those more affordable areas to be eliminated, and nothing is getting put up in their place. So when we find people in need, we try to find a place for them to go. But unfortunately, we have families and people that are ending up in motels because there just isn't something that's within their affordability range to put them in and then hope that they can stay in. We have a lot of jobs in this community that are retail and customer service, and they pay about $8, $9 an hour. And for a family of four, that's not very much money to be able to take care of that. The Homeless Advisory Board continues to make the community aware of where those problems are, how we can work together. And it will take all of us. It takes developers, it takes business leaders, it takes the faith-based community to be able to say, you know what, homelessness is something that's unacceptable in Sioux Falls, and we're going to do what we can, not regardless of the expense, but keeping in mind the expense, to do the best that we can to provide for the most needy in our community.
Just seems like your proposal here is, it's pretty easy to say if we just house everybody, we'll end homelessness.
Right.
No matter their income level, no matter their need, you just house them. You've done your job. After this project is done, will this board need to exist?
I don't think it's just housing. I think when you look at when we say permanent supportive housing, that means we're providing services on an ongoing basis. We're looking at case management, we're looking at health, we're looking at all the things that go into a daily person, to a daily life. And I don't think that by dealing with just the chronics, we've eliminated homelessness in the community. That's just one portion. We have individuals that are not chronics, we have families, we have elderly, we have the whole gamut in Sioux Falls, just like there is anywhere else in the country of people who are homeless.
Again, I'll just add that the $4 million and the $400,000 spent every year to support this, from everybody that I'm talking to, except people within this room, I would say, call it a little bit crazy, that we don't support families and children, that we are focusing on this group. And I don't mean to yell at you like I might sound. I'm just feeding you some of the frustration I'm getting from the public who can't believe that we would consider this option, that we would not support families and children. Why I think there's a much larger group than these
We're
chronic.
supporting the whole thing at the same time. The Homeless Advisory Board recognizes the needs in the community. We have a very good grasp on what the homeless population looks like for the families in this community. This is the first step, dealing with the chronic population. It's where we said we were going with the blueprint. It's what we've been focused on. And until we can get this out of the way, we really can't go forward with anything else, because we need to have community support. We need to have the financial backing of both the city, the county, and other community partners to make this a reality. And that $4 million is to build it. The annual operating expenses are about $409,000 a year.
I know this isn't about money, right?
It's absolutely not about money. It's about quality of life. It's about caring for
let's
the
keep
people of our
moving.
community.
Let's keep moving.
I'm
Vernon?
sorry.
Just a couple things, Greg. First of all, in this segment of the population, the cause of homelessness, as we've talked about before, is mental illness. In terms of the families, there are lots of agencies, including government, that do address family issues and will continue to do so. And like we've said before, this is a map that we follow. It's worked in 150 other cities across the country. So it's not like we're just winging this. It's been proven in 150 cases to be an effective way to end homelessness.
Okay, go ahead, Kenny.
Okay. Just to add to that, we're looking at right now 20 people who are taking up a major portion of the allotted money that we have for homeless in this area. And if we can reduce the cost that these people are incurring, we're going to be able to help more people. That's the whole point of this that I see, is that, other than adding more money to the budget for homeless, this is going to be the best way to be able to help more families, is to get this price or this cost here down. And until we do that, we're just going to be spinning around.
Councilor Jamison, I think it's important for you to do a little background study on the other programs and some of the information, because I certainly understand what you're saying in terms of people concerned about just one portion of the population. There are numerous outlets and places for families, for women, for children. This particular segment is a huge cost to this community. And to close our eyes and to say we aren't going to touch it, we want to say to the taxpayers then we're going to spend more and more money. The important thing, I don't know if you've ever heard of Maslow and his little triangle of basic needs. These people do not have basic needs, which I am going to guess that there isn't a single person in this room that has ever been through that. And if you don't have a bed and you don't have food, you don't have a place that is safe, then you go no further in your development. And so if you think and go back to that, and maybe you had it in basic psychology, that little study of human beings and how they get to be where they need to be. And we have that duty to every person in this community, not just those people that want pretty parks and hockey rinks and event centers. They're all wonderful, everybody, but we can't leave out that segment either.
Dick?
Well, you spent a good deal of your remarks talking about families and children. This thing doesn't do one thing for them. I kind of agree with Councilman Jameson that you said it was the first step, and yet we had another speaker that said it was basically a hospice. And I guess it's a matter of priorities. And if you had $1 million to spend on the homeless, would you spend 40% of it on 22 out of the, how many, 600 or whatever the number is? I don't think so. I mean, these are 22 chronic, unless it in fact is about money. And if it's about money, then they got to make the proof of the case. And everything we read talks back about how much these people cost us and how much money we're going to save. Then it's all about money.
I think it has to be about both. And I think when it comes down to it for the chronic homeless population, it is like a hospice for them. So many of them have unfortunately lived a life that none of us would want to say was our lives because of the things and the decisions and the circumstances that have happened to them. And where they're at now, at the ages of 30, 40, 45 years of age, they've spent a good portion of their life consuming alcoholic beverages, and unfortunately their health is severely deteriorated. And in return, what happens then is those people are going to the ERs, they are going to detox, they are involving the law enforcement, they are involving the ambulance services. So all of the community gets affected by that. But additionally, it also affects the wait times at the ERs when people are going there to just get warm or just get fed, because that's what happens with chronic homeless people. And I can't say strongly enough that we do care about kids. We're not trying to any way say that we don't understand that there's both issues. But we have to figure out which way is the best way to go. And all across America, we're seeing the best way to go is to deal with your chronic homeless population first, because it frees up your community resources. And by freeing up those resources, it allows those agencies that have a little bit of money to be able to spend more of that money on families.
How many others do we have that are going to talk tonight? Let's get through that. Let's listen to those. We got into the council meeting tonight.
Good afternoon, councilors and commissioners. I wanted to take 2 minutes just to answer some of the questions that came up, because there was a couple of questions that maybe we haven't really explained that well. One of the first things is you need to understand that for families, we are, at the county level, we are already spending about $1 million a year on rents and deposits and emergency motel rooms. We also run a program called the Dakota House, which is a shelter for families, and we've had that in place since 1992. Other efforts in the community include the Harlan House that Interlakes Community Action has, the programs at Community Outreach and Salvation Army that serve homeless people, and the St. Francis House and its programs, and the Union Gospel Mission and its programs. So we have a number of programs already out there in place. And in terms of dollars, the county is already spending significant dollars on homeless families. And that whole $1 million doesn't go just to families. It includes individuals, but it's a powerful part of what we're doing as a community. Second, there was some concerns raised about about how many people we've had graduate. And we've really got 2 people right now that we look at as having graduated. One is still living in the program, but really has moved in considerable ways from where they were when they came into the program. And then we've got another person that is actually living out in the community and we have very limited interaction with. I don't foresee that being the thing that happens with most of the people, but it's something that we strive for with all of the people. And our goal is to get people, if possible, into treatment and keep people's living conditions stabilized in a way where they do understand what treatment can offer them and what life can offer if they're not drinking. The reason we got into this, and real quickly, the history of it was that the folks that we're talking about are folks that always are on the streets. They're not able to get into the shelters that exist. And so whether it's 30 below zero and they're outside, or whether it's summer and they're passed out at the library, there's a constant population of people that aren't able to get into the facilities that exist. And that's part of how we got into creating this program. And that's part of what Housing First is and the efforts that have come out of President Bush's administration to deal with this part of the population. So many costs go, the community spends so much money dealing with these people, and there's ways that it can be done that are at least no more expensive. And the other question was relative to the $400,000 that would have cost us to run the program. That's with the program that we would predict or forecast we'd have 32 people in. Currently, we're spending, with all costs included, including staff costs, about $23,000 a person, but that includes more than just administrative costs. I would estimate our administrative costs right now are somewhere around $250,000 to $275,000, $280,000. So our costs would go up with the program, but part of that's because we're talking about a much larger program and one that's much more adequately run. I hope that answers some of the questions that were out there.
Kermit?
Yeah, Hugh, with the program that you have right now, that pilot program,
Yes.
We're getting like Social Security checks from some of those individuals and other funding from the federal government. How much money are you getting from those kind of?
We're not getting any money from the federal government. We are working to get people on disability programs.
Yes.
It's very difficult to get somebody on disability with alcoholism as one of the primaries, and so that's one of the real hurdles that it's a real struggle. We've probably got 3 people that are on that are on the SSI programs right now. And in those cases, we are getting money from people that offsets our costs, either for housing or in one case, the person is actually living independently and paying all their own bills. And that
So it sounds like we're just getting, with that kind of disability, and nobody's getting any Social Security checks or regular?
I believe it's 3 people that we have getting SSI, which is a disability program. We had one person that was getting a veterans pension. The disability, when there's alcoholism, is one of the core problems. It's very difficult to get. It used to be that you get people in that situation on disability, and so we were able to get them places in the community. It's been about 25 years now that it's been real difficult, if that's the presenting problem, to get the person on disability programs.
And so that'd be just a few thousand we're getting from these individuals? Any idea?
Our goal would be to make that part of the income that comes in to offset the cost, and that would be with an adequate staff. We could more aggressively work with the federal government in getting people eligible for SSI. There are a lot of hoops. You can do it with a lot of work, but you go through denials and denial after denial with it. The other thing is that we're on an ongoing basis looking at other funding opportunities that are out there, and also partners in the community. I think one of the issues we face with community partners is the question of where are the city and the county on this. They're looking for direction from us, and I think part of what they're saying to us is if you guys can't come to some agreement on this, we're not sure that we're putting, and they haven't said it exactly that way, but my impression would be they're waiting to put their dollars on the table until they see whether there's a commitment from both the city and the county to partner on this.
Carolyn.
To follow up with that, Hugh, what's the status of the THUD grant, and what's the timing of that?
The THUD grant could be, our knowledge of that could be as early as June, as late as the fall, like October or November. So there's not, in our experience, my experience with federal funding is, it just kind of has its own life, and you don't know, those of you who've had federal funds, you don't know until you actually have the check in your hand, what you're getting.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say I don't think it's just about money, because in this case, money is talking about resources, and when we're occupying our resources with being distracted by these chronic homeless people, I think we are all losing. If every ambulance is busy picking up somebody that's had a problem downtown, and that woman and child cannot be transported to the hospital, that's a waste of resources. When every bed in the emergency room is occupied and we can't get in there with a heart attack or something, that's a waste of resources. When every detox visit is a repeat, and this Denver article talks about 70 visits a year for some people. I've been to detox, but I had the key, I guess. I could walk in and walk out. 70 visits in a year. And this program in Denver reduced that to 20, from 70 to 20. The jail. I know that another example that I've heard from the public defender is that when they go to court, their defendant is there with them, as opposed to back in detox, back in jail. It's not exactly money. That's one of the ways we keep score, but it's about wasting our community resources. And I certainly appreciate Councilman Jameson's question about the causes, and I think that Stacy answered as far as homelessness in general, but I think for these chronics, that it is more likely to be mental illness. It is more likely to be some addictive disease. It is more likely to be some brain damaged issue. I think the important part, though, is to save our resources and use them as wisely as possible, because they are limited.
Others? Come on.
Mayor Munson and city commissioners and city councilors, I guess you're called, and county commissioners. I'm Shirley Helene, member of the Homeless Advisory Board. I've had the privilege of sitting on that board and have learned so much about what goes on in this wonderful city that we call home. Now, we've had many, I'm not going to talk anything about the nuts and bolts. You're going to have to work through all of that. And you have had the foresight, Mayor Munson, to set this up to begin with, and I commend you for that. Because every great city looks ahead to see what's going to happen down the pike and then does it. And I think that's what we're doing here. This city has a history of giving and volunteerism. We've seen that in the banquet. Dave, you and I started the Lunches Served. We've had a lot of those things going on. And this we have found in the hub is that housing first is really one of the best answers to this. We have over 50 feeding programs in this city, but that just takes care of the food. When you have a shelter, a bed, and a place to stay, that's very important. That would be very important to me, and I think to all of you too. So what I would like to just say is I commend you for what you've done so far, and you've got a lot of work ahead of you, and I hope that you will all get down and dig into the facts and come ahead and have the foresight to move ahead. That's what makes Sioux Falls a great place to live. Sioux Falls not only goes by the head and the financial backing, but we're a city of heart, and I know that you'll help us prove that. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. Others?
My name is Tim Nicolai. I've had the opportunity to see what good has become of this pilot program. I work with these people in the trenches every day, and as a business owner, I've seen the program bring a lot of these people better lives. They've got ownership in this program, and I think the program has been a total success. If anybody wants to call me someday and talk about what I've seen and what goes on a day-to-day basis, I'd be more than happy to talk to them.
Right.
City Council, I just wanted to make clear, Tim and his wife are the couple that own the Arena Motel that I've talked to you about before, who have done phenomenal things for families in this community who fall on hard times. Also, Tim, I don't know if you're at liberty to say, but can we tell the council to watch tomorrow?
Yep.
Why don't you, I'll let you make the announcement.
Oprah Winfrey show tomorrow at 4 o'clock. We're going to be bringing some attention to this issue also. So
he's being too humble. The story is about him and his wife.
Thank you for the opportunity to address you.
Thanks, Tim. Others? Not. Then we have the report. I see no one else coming forward, so with that, go ahead.
I would just like to thank all of you for coming today. I know that you all care as much as we do about the topic of homelessness, and I would just like to conclude my remarks at least to say that I continue to be very optimistic about the progress we are making. I mean, you know, different people always like to go like in a race or whatever, everyone goes at different speeds and so forth, and that's all understandable because we're all on just different timetables. But I just am very encouraged, and I just believe by early fall that the City Council will, I believe that there's enough support here to commit to, hopefully to a partnership of some degree. But I really do believe that we'll need that much time to get our budget in front of us and see just what we can do with the county, because we really do enjoy our partnerships with you.
There? Not? Is there a motion?
Mayor, I think for myself and for the commission, we want to thank you. And as I look at this, and I know that, your term is up next spring, and I think it would be such a great gift to this whole community, because you started this, we're actually 4 years down the road, truthfully, and if it's a 10-year project, it would be so great if we could have this started while you're still in office. And so I'm hoping that the City Council will look at this, and the Commission has looked at it. It would be so wonderful if we could get it moving. You had the foresight. We've had a lot of mayors over the years, and this problem has been there. And you were the first one, the only one, to set up this board. And I thank you so very much. And I'm hopeful that this City Council will also be able to see it's time to move ahead. Thank you.
Others? Jeff?
Thank you. I did have the chance to, I guess last time we met together, after we had left, there was some additional discussion on this issue, and I was able to review it on your wonderful website, which I wish that we in the county would have that same website. And I thought it was a pretty constructive discussion, actually, and I think it's important that people say the things that they need to say on this stuff. And going forward, I think that these questions can be answered, and I hope we take the time to answer the questions for everybody that needs them answered. And you know, it's difficult to expect unanimity in the United States. Certainly, a jury of 12 is it's an amazing thing when they come to a unanimous decision, and if we can get however many of us there are to come to full agreement, that would be amazing. But I think that there's room for further discussion, room for further explanation, and I look forward to making those explanations and asking those questions. Thanks.
Kenny?
Just the last thing, I would like to ask a question to the county commissioners. Has anyone gotten any replies since the announcement has been made on the site from anyone as far as neighbors up in the area? I have. I'm going to pass that forward to you guys. We've had a couple neighbors up in the apartment complex up in the northwest or northeast corner there of that block that would like to ask some questions of the commission.
I think it would be good for Ken to answer that question because he would be fielding all those calls if we've had any complaints.
My office has not received any specific complaints directed right to the office. I do know, I did see the Kelloland news presentation where a couple of the owners or residents up in that area did voice some concern, but my office has not been contacted directly for any of those complaints.
I think Vernon did respond to one of them very well. Thank you, Vernon. But I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of that also.
Further questions? Not. Is there a motion on the city side to adjourn?
I so move Knutson.
Is there a second? Let's second it. Further comments? All in favor of the motion to adjourn, vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilors Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
City stands adjourned.
Same motion for the county.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.